safe streets, vibrant neighborhoods, successful business and commerce. These are things that make a healthy community. We are a diverse community, rural, suburban, urban, a multitude of languages and ethnicities, ages and experiences. We are a collaborative community. Public-private partnerships make us a model community that others want to follow. It is what makes us unique. It is what makes us strong. The employees of Kent County reflect our diversity and seek to serve our communities.
People in this county, in this area, we wrap our arms around each other. We come together to collaborate, to solve problems. We're all working for the good of the whole. And I think that's wonderful. And you can see it. You can see it as you drive around Kent County.
Our impact starts the day a baby is born and a birth certificate is issued, to protecting children from deadly diseases through vaccination, to the public safety and justice provided by law enforcement and the courts, to offering veterans services and caring for the elderly. Every day we work to keep our communities robust.
I think if you are somebody who's interested in serving your community, in building a strong knowledge base and a good group of people to work with, then the county is one of your best employment opportunities out there. It's been completely rewarding in every way I could possibly explain for 26 years, and I feel like I grow every single day still today.
Leading these dedicated employees, our 19-member Board of Commissioners and our County Administrator Controller, along with our elected officials and appointed department directors, placing emphasis on civic involvement, quality housing, vibrant neighborhoods, and strong, solid infrastructure to allow businesses to thrive. Professional, dedicated, collaborative, and innovative.
Behind the scenes, collaboration between foundations, charitable organizations, nonprofits, for-profit businesses, public sector demonstrated through the county, the city of Grand Rapids, the townships, all the cities and the villages in our area. If we don't come together, then we will not have the strength that we have today, and I only hope to build upon that.
Our aim is to make our communities the best they can be. We are involved in exciting development projects, sustainable recycling programs, and creative progressive prevention programming. We partner with elected officials, impacting policy ideas that become great achievements. We seek opportunities to reach out into the community and offer our services to help our residents make Kent County thrive.
Our relationship is solid, both from a staff standpoint at the county level as well as the Board of Commissioners. And they understand what we do and the benefits that we can do for the community, and vice versa. We couldn't do what we do without the help of Kent County.
While most of us are busy running our lives, Kent County's elected officials, administrator controller, and over 1,600 employees are serving the communities where we live our lives, so we can all have a place we are proud to call home. Kent County, its life well run.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to call to order the Finance and Physical Resources Committee meeting of Tuesday, December 4th. It is 8:30, and we will begin with public comment. Is there any public that would like to address the Finance and Physical Resources Committee this morning? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment and we will go to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Any items have to be pulled? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes and the consent agenda passes. We'll go to number 3 from the Administrator's Office. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to the board to approve pledging $1.4 million to Grand Rapids Whitewater, to appropriate $1.4 million to the Grand Rapids Whitewater project in the 2018 CIP fund budget from the Lodging Excise Tax Fund, and to authorize the board chair or its designee to execute the funding agreement. Grand Rapids Whitewater is a nonprofit foundation committed to raising funds to restore the rapids through a collaborative public partnership and private partnership. The restoration of the rapids will provide social benefits to the community, which includes providing educational opportunities for youth and increase recreational access and opportunities. The restoration is projected to have a significant economic impact on the region while becoming another factor in recruiting and retaining talent. The community anticipates inspiring regional stewardship of the Grand River. The benefits of this regional project appear to be significant and in the best interest of its residents. It is recommended that the county contribute $1.4 million over 3 years pursuant to the agreement. Corporate Counsel has reviewed and approved the agreement to form.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And support?
Support.
Thank you. Moved and supported, and we'll have questions, comments, and discussion. Let's start with Commissioner Antor. I saw his hand first.
Thank you, Chair. I continue to have some reservations about this project, and I appreciate the meetings that we've had with the folks with this project. The biggest thing, I don't know if we have a complete handle on the cost. I realize our input's going to be, set at 1.4 million. I just don't want to see our 1.4 million going to something that maybe doesn't turn out quite the way we hope. I have talked to the folks, and I'm impressed with the due diligence. I know you guys have spent a lot of time talking to the DNR, Fisheries Department, and everybody else. And I also know that there's been a lot of work done trying to keep the Asian carp out of Lake Michigan. And I just read or heard recently where the cost of that now has tripled. It's up to $700 million is what they're estimating to get the barrier. And I know we have to build a barrier to keep the lamprey eels out of Lake Michigan. And I understand that you guys have looked at it, and the costs, I hope, are set at this point based on I think it's $44 million is what this project's going to cost. I hope we don't have to exceed that. I don't know, because I'm not an expert. I have talked to the Fisheries Department. They think it's going to be a little bit more costly than what maybe we're anticipating. One thing, too, is a couple other things. When you look at the river, especially at night, we've got some great photographs. I know Experience Grand Rapids has pictures, and you got all the lights reflecting off the water. It's actually quite beautiful after dark. Because of the beautification dams that we put in many, many years ago, it widened the river, and it gave it the look that it does right now. They were put there to give the river kind of a false sense of width, I guess. But it looks good, and those are going to be coming out, and now we're going to have a straight shot, relatively speaking, of a lot more flow, a lot more rapid. And I don't think it's going to help the fishing much, because I don't think people will fish there anymore, because there's no need to, because the dam will be out. It's going to be a lot harder fishing because of the fast water and so on and so forth. Now, having said all of that, I am going to have faith in the work that you're doing. I am going to vote to support this. But I just want people to realize this is such a huge project. It's never been done before here. I know it's been done down in Columbus, Georgia. My other reservation is the anticipated economic development around this project. I just can't wrap my arms around it. I've looked at this every which way I can, but I think the river's pretty much developed along its banks through here, and I don't see a lot of recreational activity coming about from this. I don't see this as a destination for that type of activity. There's too many other options around. So I'm going to vote to support this, because I know that there's a desire from the rest of the board, from our administrator, and from the community to pass this. But I'm worried about the total cost, and I'm concerned about the economic development. So, and we've talked, but I appreciate your input.
Richard, would you like to make a few comments?
Yes, thank you. Again, I've had the opportunity to speak with you before, and you asked really good questions. And let me go down the list here. The first one, from a budget perspective, you are right. When you build in a project like this, there are a lot of unknowns. But I will tell you, particularly the adjustable hydraulic structure, which is the barrier, it has been vetted by the Corps of Engineers. And if there are cost implications that come up down the road, there's a pretty good contingency that's built into that budget to address those. And the Corps of Engineers will actually manage the design and manage the construction of it, along with the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission. So we have a good partnership there that I know that will be able to address any issues that come up there. We've really done a good job working with, with Great Lakes Fisheries at the federal level to continue to get money on an annual basis for the adjustable hydraulic structure. So that's the budget. From the look, I can tell you from my experience, I had a similar project in Columbus that I was real concerned about taking 2 dams out and making the river just let it go. And the beauty of that river today compared to what it was is not even comparable. Because when the lights, as you mentioned, start getting on that river and it's rushing down the river and you can hear it and you can hear the river, it's going to be beautiful. There's no question there that this river will be beautiful. From the fishing perspective, I think that the process that we've gone through in working with DNR and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they have to defend it to the community as far as having a good venue for our fishing community, the anglers in the community. So we're there. I mean, we're working with them on a regular basis to make sure, to the point that they want to have a project that they can support. In this first phase, from 196 down to Fulton, they've said that we support this project. So I have a full confidence that the process that we're going through with those agencies, we're going to have a good venue for fishing. From an economic development perspective, the Anderson Group did an economic development study back in 2014, and they identified a number of opportunity sites on both sides of the river that are developed, but you would classify them as underdeveloped. And so as this project starts to come online, people will start thinking about how I can flip that and get it to a high level of development. That's where that economic development funds come in, to the point that the study says 10 years after the project is completed, that results in about $285 million in capital investment on those sites and about 1,500 jobs. In addition to that, you've got all the tourism dollars that will be coming in here. And I say that, we were just talking about it in the back. Columbus, the demographics in Columbus, the city county is 200,000. And the commercial outfitter puts on average about 35,000 a year down paid customers in the river. Take that and multiply it, you got 600,000 here, and I'm talking just in Grand Rapids, and then the MSA in the region, and then the whole state, they will be people coming to this project. It's going to be that good. And then the last one I think you mentioned was, that may be it. I think those are the points that you mentioned, and all of those are, from my perspective and my experience, we go hit every one of them. Now, there will be challenges down the road that we deal with for the next couple of years, but that's any project this size, you have to deal with those.
Could I just follow?
Sure.
I did do the math on that, based on your 30,000. That's year round. I think down in Georgia is a little bit.
That's just paid customers.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you do the math on the 30,000, I think it's, if each one of those people spends $50, I'll be generous to say they're spending $50. That's about $1,500,000 of economic activity based on the people floating the river. So the rest has to come from everything else. And it's hard for me to envision how this is going to drive all the, right now Grand Rapids is bursting at the seams, we're growing, and I don't know if we can tie the future growth, which we all know is coming to the project, it's going to happen with or without. However, I've seen the drawings. It's a really cool project. If it comes out that way, it could be awesome. But again, I look at billboards, I see a Burger King Whopper on the billboard, and I think, holy man, I want one. And then you go to Burger King, you get one, and the lettuce is all over, the cheese and everything. So, I'm concerned. I've got to be, because that's a lot of money on our part, and we've got a lot of other needs and stuff. But again, I've got faith in this group. I know you've done your diligence, because I've contacted a lot of the people, including people down there in Columbus, and I've talked to the DNR, and I know you guys are working it really hard.
Right.
I just hope this doesn't turn into a situation like what we saw with the Asian carp. They tripled their estimates, and I don't know what happened between the time they started and now, but, it's $700 million. I realize we're not going to approach anything like that, but anyhow, that's all. I just wanted to air my concerns
Well,
publicly.
thank you for your support.
But I am going to support this,
Thank you.
believe it or not.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
So, that's it for me.
Okay, Commissioner Bolkowski?
Thank you, Chair. And Yeah, my perspective is slightly different. I'll start at the end in the sense that I'm just slightly sad that we didn't find the resources to get to the $2 million that Whitewater requested. And I start my conversation or my small soapbox moment that if you remember a few years ago, there was an article in the press about a group of Grand Rapids Public School kids that were like middle school kids that went to Lake Michigan for the first time. And, for a kid to be 12, 13, 14 years old and go to Lake Michigan for the first time, to me, man, that is just sad. A lot of reasons, just because Lake Michigan is just so awesome and so precious. And I say that because if you want to join me, I'm actually going to be on the shores of Lake Michigan Thursday night. I'm going up for my annual winter camping trip up to Sleeping Bear. And that's not for humor, that's true. And that just the beauty of our resources. And the reality is, and then quick fast forward to last Wednesday night, Grand Rapids Whitewater, Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc., the Wege Foundation brought in the Bronx River Alliance. Because this project is so focused on opening up the river for all. And I say that because it's one of the projects is called River for All. And disability advocates, we've been part of that from the beginning. We continue to work with folks that are part of this process to make sure that the wet and the dry, is the vernacular that Richard has taught us. This is all about the wet, and we'll see what happens with the dry. Just some awesome opportunities that we're looking to build. Because when you really look at the river, well, first of all, the question is, do you want to touch it? But then the second is, where can you touch it? Other than potentially right in front of Ford Museum, there's that little road by the 6th Street Bridge, 4th Street Dam there, where people go down so they can fish. So that idea, but to really create something that people want to touch, something that people want to get into, and all folks, not just, the upper income kayaker from fill in the hip city somewhere else, that this is a destination for a weekend and they spend a few bucks and we make a little money in the hotel motel tax and in a restaurant. I'm talking about those kids that can't get to Lake Michigan, and the river, again, because today the river says don't come here. Literally, we have concrete walls up and down it, and the concrete walls will remain. The flood walls will just look different as it goes forward. So anyways, I could go on and on and on. And the last historical note, though, is simply, I was shocked on the historical note. It had been at least 2 years ago, because it was Commissioner Vandermolen, retired Commissioner Vandermolen, who said that the arena was not a unanimous vote. Now, I don't know how many of us think the arena was not a good idea, 20 plus years ago when that vote occurred here to support that bonding that was required. So I'm 100% in favor of the due diligence. I'm 100% in favor of people's skepticism. And again, not negative skepticism, real. It's like, ooh, will this really be as good as we say? I'm as excited, even more so, again, because that moving water and what it will do for our whole region. This isn't about the city of Grand Rapids, it's about our whole region. So I don't think there's a question in there. I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for your time with us, because I hear you're going back south. You didn't want to go north camping with me, let alone even stay in your nice warm house up here. So thank you for your hard work while you were here. And so like I said, this is good, and let's keep going.
Thank you. Commissioner Brady.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a great project. It's drawn many people together. You see the museum working on different projects with it, Michigan State University, the city, the county, a number of participants. So I think that's amazing. One thing Commissioner Bukowski mentioned was, are people going to want to actually touch the water? And, growing up in Grand Rapids my entire life, I've seen the river change, and I think it's improved significantly with how wastewater has been managed. But do people still want to touch it? That's what I have no desire to go in the river at this point, and I love kayaking. But seeing that we have the Thornapple River, the Rogue River, they both have amounts of PFAS in them. How do we know that the Grand River doesn't have that, and how do we know it's safe for humans and animals to go into? And if it does have PFAS, how do we deal with that after this river has been restored and the rapids are here and people want to have fun in it? How do we know it's safe to enter?
Couple of things. The city has done an incredible job over the last 15 years of cleaning up their combined sewer flow to the amount of about $500 million. So that is a big deal. As a part of this project, the first phase, which is the piece from 196 down to Fulton, we have a grant of about $8 million. 4.1 of it will go towards construction of the project. The rest of those funds will go towards what is being developed as we speak. It's called a watershed project plan, which will identify best practices for the agricultural community in the county on ways to start looking at cleaning up, their distribution of water into the river as it comes off of those agricultural sites. So there'll be money available to them to apply for grants. So that'll help too. The other piece of it is, as far as, again, the PFAS issue, I've done a little due diligence. I'm certainly not an expert on that. But if you go on DEQ's website, it talks about, getting in contact with your body in the water, and it doesn't seem to be, at this point, an issue. But if you ingest a lot of it, I'm sure over time it could be a problem for you. I don't know that, but my information is swimming in the river is not a health issue to people to get into the river. I will tell you that the perception is something that, from an educational process over the next few years, as the run-up to getting ready to open up this project, there will be an education process to get people more familiar with the health of the river. That has to be done. An example is this past summer, we did our first summer educational camp. We had 10 students from the county that participated in it, and the first day, they went in the river. They went in the river touching it. They were getting mussels out of the river. We had our biologist here working with them. And that was a 2-week process that we went through, and they were just studying the snuff box. But they got in the river just like that. So I think it's an educational process, and our staff and the museum is going to do a great job of educating the community. So there's a real PR process that will need to be put in place over the next few years to deal with that.
It may be a generational thing too. I mean, I may be towards the end of the group that still remembers what flowed down the river.
Yep.
So kids that are in high school, maybe even college now, but you may want to educate their parents.
And the river's tested on a regular basis, and it tests very positively for human contact.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really love the passion of this dialogue and debate that we're having. It's the first time in 18 years that I've had analogies of Burger King Whoppers and winter camping as we're debating one of these issues that's pretty important, I think, to the region. I must admit, I don't have passion one way or another for this. I think what's important to me is I've had dialogue with our fiscal director and extensive dialogue with our fiscal director, and he's saying that we can support this, and I don't think he'd bring it if it was any other way than us being able to support this project. So barring the whoppers and barring the winter camping scenes, as long as we have the financial nuts and bolts to support this, I'm okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Mast.
Well, I was just going to raise a question. There's talk of opening the river up beyond, I think, Granville Bridge or so, to boat traffic from the Lake Michigan. Is this going to impact or help it or detract from it? It isn't part of that.
Yeah, I've heard that same conversation. I'm not that familiar with it. I know that they've received some funding to do some environmental work. I don't, it won't impact our project at all because it's below Fulton, so it won't impact our project. I just don't have a lot of detailed information to dive into, the effects other than how it would interact with our project, and I don't see that bothering our project at all.
Well, Richard, while we have you up here, why don't you give us a quick update on where you are with your financial goals?
Yeah. So, we are at about 60% in overall campaign funding. So we're about 60% there. I'm gonna take it into different buckets. The city is committed in local government. The city's committed. DGR is committed. We hope we have a positive vote here to the county. So that being the case, we'd be fully committed at the local level as far as government. The state, we received $1.5 million in 2018. We have already used, our first draw was $750,000. We used that $750,000. We provided all the backup information that has been approved by the state to get the second $750,000, which we should receive right after the first of the year. So that's for the 18 funding. We also received $1.5 million in 2019 for the 2019 budget. $1.5 million in 2019. So that's the $3 million from the state. We are in the process of getting that agreement signed with the state for the 2019 funding. The federal piece, we continue to work with our lobbyists in Washington and the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission to continue the funding for the adjustable hydraulic structure. It's well over $10 million that we've raised there to date. And then from the private side, we are at about almost at 50%. We've got a couple of applications out that could be approved before the end of the year. We just received $1 million contribution 2 weeks ago. So those fundings, we're about 45% from the private side. So we're in really good shape. Our campaign, our major donor campaign, hopefully will end sometimes in late 19.
Hey, Commissioner Voorhees, I saw you wanted to comment.
Yeah, my thoughts came around to it. I would have supported the $2 million. I think it is it's going to create a greater investment and notoriety for Grand Rapids. But along the way, you mentioned something about the sound, and I like the sound. Whenever we could, I'd like to park. If we went to Colorado, I wanted to park right down by the creek, or up by the ocean. I want to be where I can hear the waves. But what is the sound factor? I'm thinking of places that today, more and more, people want to eat outdoors. They like to, be out there where they're along the river. We've enjoyed it at the Marriott. And so what is the sound factor? Does it have an effect? Is it a questionable thing about the amount of sound?
No, it's not a questionable in a bad way. It'll be very similar if you go down to the river today and you get very close to the beautification dams. You can hear that sound as that water flows over those dams. It'll be something similar to that, but it'll be up and down the river, not just where those beautification dams are. Nothing that's overbearing, but it'll be just really cool stuff. And what I would say is that's one of the things that, you look at the economic development numbers, but you will have so many more people in this community just coming to the river. They may not want to get in the river, but they want to see it and they want to hear it and they want to enjoy it.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Hey, thank you, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you. Before I go, if I may.
Sure.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank Wayman and his staff. They've worked really hard to put all this information together, and I really appreciate the work that they've done, and thank you.
Okay. So with that, we will take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes.
Thank you so much, and you will enjoy this in a few years. Thank you.
We'll go on to item 4 from the Administrator's Office. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to the commission to appropriate $400,000 to the Lodging and Excise Tax Fund budget, authorize an agreement with the West Michigan Sports Commission to provide $400,000 for the purpose of supporting the area's infrastructure for increased support tourism activity and associated lodging excise tax receipts, and authorize the board chair or designee to execute the agreement. In 2006, the county created the West Michigan Sports Commission for the purpose of growing sports tourism. Since then, the West Michigan Sports Commission has hosted 729 events that brought in approximately 1.2 million participants and visitors to the region, with $345 million in direct visitor spending and approximately 320,000 booked room nights. Lodging excise tax revenue may be used to pay costs of administration, maintenance, improvement, and debt for convention and entertainment facilities, the promotion and encouragement of tourism, tourist and convention business in the county, and to establish a reasonable reserve fund for future payments on bonds. It is recommended that the $400,000 be appropriated to the 2018 Lodging Excise Tax Fund from Lodging Excise Tax Fund reserves for transfer to the West Michigan Sports Commission's complex, the Art Van Sports Complex project in the CIP fund. West Michigan Sports Commission will utilize the $400,000 to support the Art Van Sports Complex and its efforts to expand lodging excise tax receipts. This agreement has been reviewed and approved as to form by corporate counsel.
Is there a motion to approve? Support. Okay, moved and supported. We'll have questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Morgan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. This is probably an issue that you're going to see a little bit of passion from me, about as much as I can muster, I think. 2006, when we put this together, when I was meeting with Matthew and Wayman, I told them I really wanted to create something that could go on beyond the county, and I think we've been very successful with that. My recollection may be incorrect, and it may not have materialized, but my initial conversations was a $500,000 donation, and maybe we're not able to do that, and I'm taking this at face value, but, and then there was some matches involved with that, but I'm very happy to see us make this contribution to the Sports Commission. I think they've been just outstanding with their recruitment and what they've done to the region, and I think it's exceeded our wildest expectations when we first started having the conversations about the Sports Commission in 2006. So other than that, what are you going to do with the money? And are you going to spend it right away, or is this over 3 years too, or is this just?
No, I don't believe it is over 3 years. And thank you, Chair Jones and Commissioners, for having this on your agenda item today. You know, and you heard really the numbers and the impact of your investment in creating the West Michigan Sports Commission. And thank you, Commissioner Morgan, who was chair at the time, and you know, put it to Commissioner Korndike in the back to really do the due diligence. And you know, the numbers speak for themselves. It's hard to believe that it's been 11 years, going on 12, and over that time we've created a signature event. We've created a complex that continues to bring in both awards. We received an award from USA Softball for excellence in conducting one of their national championships. We'll host 2 more next year. But the numbers of bodies and visitors into our community. We still have a $1.1 million note on the complex, so we will apply some of those funds towards that to bring down those interest rates as we receive pledges from Art Van Furniture, but also some outstanding private pledges that wholly went in to really build the complex. We have other projects in store through the Destination Asset Study as we look at what more can we do to further the impact of youth and amateur sports and sports tourism on this region. And so we'll look to potentially earmark some of those dollars should we be able to move forward with those type of projects. All of it really looking to have an impact, a continual impact and a positive impact on the lodging excise tax, which the county collects, the hotel assessment, but even greater, the economic impact of sports tourism and these new dollars that otherwise would not be here into this community.
Hey, Commissioner Breedy.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I have the opportunity to serve on the Sports Commission, and I really enjoy it. And there's a few others on this board who've served before me. But, you know, I think the Sports Commission, along with, restoring the river, I think we have a lot going on in our community, a lot of positive things, and I think this allocation will really free up some funds, and, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg with youth sports and what we have in our region. I think we could do a lot more, and it's a huge thing in our country right now. So the Sports Commission is doing a great job bringing people to the area, and, I fully support this and would love to see the growth continue.
Thank you. Commissioner Voorhees.
Thank you, Chair Jones. I'm going to up Commissioner Morgan one. I'm looking at my 2015 notes, and it said we were talking 600,000, not 500, or even 4. But it was kind of an agreement when the property on Lower Monroe gets sold, which the transfers are done, that we were going to help pay off some of this. 400,000 went to pay the Department of Public Works for the property, and so that 600,000 was kind of still in my mind of what we would be doing, because I believe too, on behalf of the county, it was a dynamic idea that has really paid off, and I think those opportunities, when I look at Whitewater, I'm praying that that'll be the same kind of an impact in our community, and for the county to be in it and start it back with Roger was chairing. So I strongly support it and would support it at an even higher level, but I want to, as you said, follow up what our financial input is as well. So that's where.
To make a quick comment back to Commissioner Voorhees, who, and thank you for the service on our board as well, the time that you spent with us. The 400,000, I think it's tied back to the money that we did pay for the land where the complex now sits. Ambassador Secchia was going to match another 100,000 if the county kicked in an extra 100,000. So I think that's how we got from the 4 to the 5 to the 6. Through our last board meeting, we had much discussion about this opportunity. Ambassador Secchia is still willing to contribute 100,000. So we're going to keep pinching him for those dollars, but certainly it's the county that we have great appreciation for, and again, originating this organization, but your consideration today.
Yes, can you follow up?
Thank you. Would it be improper to make a motion to amend to 500 so we can capture that other 100,000? And then it will be 6 if we add 1 now and check it later?
Due respect, this is what's being brought to us by our fiscal services. I would like to continue the conversation, Commissioner, and maybe at a future date, maybe we can tackle that one. But like I stated before, this is what's being presented by our fiscal services, and so they have a reason for that, and that's where I'm kind of at, but I'm not going to shut off any further dialogue or discussion.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Bukowski?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Michael, for your continued work in this area. My quick, well, they won't be quick. My question fits in the area of vision, in the sense that there's one way you could look at this, and I'm sure a news outlet could say, wow, it looks like the Sports Commission is in a cash flow issue and they're getting a bailout from the county because they can't make their bond payments or their note payments. Again, that's a spin. I don't believe that. As opposed to, hey, paying this off allows us to step forward to a greater vision more quickly, because as Commissioner Breeve said, we're barely scratching the surface of possibilities for youth sports. And so when we look at, if you remember, I don't know when you were here, when I asked, when are you going to build the next 4 fields out there? Because we need 12, not 8. And we probably, once we get those done, we probably are going to need 16. And so really looking at that, and then that doesn't even really address, do we have the soccer fields we need? Because I complained that what was the Elks Country Club or Highlands being turned into nature, I would have liked to seen that 10 soccer fields, because that's right on a bus line, and it could have been an awesome place. I lost that battle. I support that being turned into nature. There's got to be a place for enough soccer fields. And then, of course, I don't know if anybody noted, it's cold outside and people are playing hockey again. And do we have enough hockey rinks that are, again, of the quality that there's a lot of people that do travel hockey? And because then it's easy to put a gymnastics event across the street, because it was here just this past week. They delayed me trying to get out of down below, but that was a good delay. That being said, it's you can't just put a hockey rink up. You can't just put a soccer field. So where's the vision that, are you guys ready to roll that out to say, this is going to be a big lift for our community to get up there?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the dollars that we're talking about today are being used in a platform to build upon. Certainly to free up some dollars as we look at capital improvement projects for the complex. Anytime that you have a complex or any type of physical resource, you need to maintain it at a high level to keep attracting those teams and those visitors back to the community. So that's really number one, what we want to do. But the vision certainly is there, both in our community and alongside many different partners, including the county, about continued infrastructure, and not just to build it for building its sake. It's really being smart about what we're building and how we're building it. Our Meyer State Games in Michigan will celebrate 10 years for the Summer Games this coming summer. And, you know, we use all of the ice that there is available in town, both from figure skating and hockey and other ice events. And so we are pretty well aware of the inventory of what exists, of what the needs are, and certainly soccer fields or rectangle fields, as I like to call them, because you've got soccer, lacrosse, flag football, field hockey, and a number of other events that we can draw in and do on those type of fields. And Commissioner Bereavy mentioned this is happening all across the country. Municipalities are investing in these types of facilities because sports tourism does retain its level of volume even in a down economy. As parents, we want our kids involved in sports. There's great advantages that come from the health benefits and really just all that they learn from sport. So we're certainly looking, and it's certainly on our radar of additional investment. It just means adding a few more zeros to the end of the number that we're talking about, and having partnerships throughout the community to do those type of projects.
All right.
Follow-up?
Yeah, well, the follow-up is, when you say investment, that'd be my only edit to Commissioner Morgan's comments, that this isn't, I don't see this as a contribution or a donation. This truly is an investment by the county in the continued success of this facility. So, and because this investment will continue to return a great return. That being said, the nit more for Wayman and maybe Steve is, you know, some of us make complaints every year. So like, and I don't know if it's another conflict I have to disclose, that I'm a member of Lake Michigan Credit Union. However, that being said, you know, we're paying 4.95% interest on $1.1 million note, and we're going to get, you know, the annual review from the treasurer soon, and Lake Michigan Credit Union is going to pay us 0.4% for $10 million. And so it's like, really? No wonder why the banks and the credit unions have all the money. There's a nice float there, and we have enough money that we could have lent this. We could have found within our pool dollars, we could have lent it for 2%. We're making way more than we're getting from the banks and credit unions. Would have saved tons of money in interest. That kind of creativity, and it still would have showed our liquidity. Maybe Wall Street wouldn't have liked us as much because we're not giving them as much money. But talk about good fiscal policy. We can borrow it from ourselves, and we'd have enough paper, we have enough attorneys in this town that it's going to be legal and liquid and all those pieces. And it was only $1.1 million. It's a lot of money, but we're not floating $145 million at an airport. That being said, no, at all of us. I mean, again, we can't bite off more than we can chew, but this is something we could chew, and it would save real money. It would have saved real money over the last few years to the Sports Commission. So that's the piece there. And then, of course, just as another historical note, because we do like to point out when we talk about like farmland preservation, our ordinance is that no county dollars go into it, you know, apart from that, the partial funding of a staff person. You know, I do recall, even though I wasn't a member of the commission at the time, that the Sports Commission was funded with general fund dollars for its first 5 years and then has been no general fund dollars since. And so we continue to honor that. This is through the hotel motel tax. That's their contributions they get via Experience Grand Rapids. It's all through hotel motel, not general fund. So again, I don't know, well, I know it wasn't in the ordinance, but it was the pledge at the beginning, the start of the Sports Commission, that y'all wouldn't come back for general fund, and it just continues that you're not coming back for general fund. So thank you for that.
Okay, Commissioner Melton, you're up next.
Thank you, Chair. As you talk about, I wasn't going to ask anything and wait another time, but as long as Mr. Bukowski mentioned all the different sports and things that we need, and maybe I'm way off base here, but I know that when Orchard Hills and East Hills closed, the tennis community lost. It was a huge loss to the tennis community. And I don't just mean, you know, your recreation players, but our colleges in town, Aquinas, Davenport, all of them that rely on indoor tennis for most of their seasons, really had to do a lot of shuffling. In order to have a tournament, you must have 6 viable tennis courts, and there are very few places in all of Grand Rapids, Kent County, anywhere you want to go nearby, other than over to Holland, that have that availability. And so a lot of our tournaments have turned to Kalamazoo, to Holland, to Traverse City, in order to have a true tennis tournament. Is this anything that has been looked at and possibly partnered with the colleges? I know Cornerstone is looking. They're all looking for places. Is this anything that?
Yeah, certainly, and there's, I could name, you know, a dozen other sports where, you know, they're looking for infrastructure. And tennis certainly took a hit, as you pointed out. Specific to indoor, we've been fortunate to work with a couple of individuals in the community that are bidding on USTA junior events, that we work with them to bid on those, and we've been successful in grabbing quite a few, one from Lansing, one from Kalamazoo. The challenge in hosting even these outdoor junior tennis tournaments does lead back to your point. They need backup facilities, and there's only a few backup facilities that they can turn to in case of rain. So it continues to be a challenge. Yes, I've had conversations with you know, private interests in the community of wanting to band together and build an indoor facility. And those conversations continue, and they continue around a number of different sports. And it leads back to my comment to Commissioner Bulkowski of we really are doing analysis and measuring and identifying the return on investment, the maintenance of having facilities of that sort, or an ice facility, to really realize, is this something, number one, can you build it, but can you maintain it and operate it, and is the return there? So it continues to be a conversation, and we'll keep evaluating.
For my part, if I can be part of the solution at all, I've, over the years, had a pretty good handle on the tennis community, and I would be very happy to lend whatever I might have to offer if that helps.
That's where the rubber meets the road, is when people are passionate about sports. So your name is down on tennis now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean this with all sincerity. I marvel at Commissioner Bulkowski's ability to weave all these different issues and thread one needle at the same time, talking about a $400,000 contribution to the Sports Commission. However, I do appreciate his mentioning the cash flow issues that we may face, and at some point in time, I'd love to sit down with you and talk about those cash flow issues, because we may have a different perspective on that. But I do marvel. I couldn't object to what you were saying because it had a fabric of what we were talking about, and I was sitting here waiting to jump in, and I really couldn't. But he just has this attorney-like ability to throw all this stuff in, and I'm looking at Mike saying, Mike, what do you have to do with this? So I just want to make that comment. Yeah, and Mike, congratulations if this passes. You worked hard. Thanks for the communication, and thank you to your staff. So.
Commissioner Bukowski, do you have additional comment?
No, please.
No, the bottom line was, and I saw Mr. Gus Weiler nodding, when I said instead of a 4.95% interest, he would be asked to pay a 2% interest on a note. His head was shaking, he understood the math pretty easy. Again, I'm all in favor of going to that whiteboard with you and Steve and Wayman and others to really look at that cash flow and what's cash flow and what's $360 million in pooled, and I know it's pooled and a lot of it's earmarked and all of that stuff. At the same time, I believe we can preserve our liquidity as well as save some dollars. Yes, and all roads lead back to Rome, so it all is relevant, and I can make it so. Thank you.
It's a great meeting.
Well, I just want to add, I'm also on the board for the West Michigan Sports Commission, and what a fabulous example of our partnership between government and the private sector. And another nod to Peter Secchia, who has said that if this does happen, that he'd add another $100,000 to that. I don't know anyone else from the community who has suggested such generosity, and I think that is definitely worth noting, and what a great combination that will be for the West Michigan Sports Commission. And again, fantastic work. The future of this is incredibly bright, and I'm pleased now to call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes.
Chair Jones, and I also want to point out and thank Wayman and Matthew Van Zetten. Wayman served on the board of the Sports Commission for 7 years, and Wayman and Matthew carried the ball before I was hired, and they did a great job, and we are where we are today because of it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go on to item number 5 from the Department of Health and Human Services. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to allocate $397,000 in funding from human services programs, as recommended by the Department of Health and Human Services, the DHS Board. The Board of Commissioners annually appropriates funds to the Department of Health and Human Services through an open request for proposals process. Funds are awarded by the DHS Board following a review of the proposals submitted by various community or social service agencies. Programs and services included in the current unmet needs category of those agencies and programs that annually receive assistance due to an absence of other funding sources, their ability to leverage significant other resources, or are in support of cooperative effort of multiple funding sources. The 2019 recommendation includes $397,476 to fund 16 programs for current unmet needs funds.
Is there a motion to approve? Okay. We have moved by Commissioner Brevy and supported by Commissioner Melton. Questions, comments, and discussion, and we'll start with Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one of our projects, or programs that we've had for quite a while, and we're one of very, very few, probably the only county that's able to do this. And if we can take this money and leverage other programs, it's just a very beneficial thing to our community. The almost $400,000, that's up from previous years.
Yeah, it was up 30,000, I think. Yeah.
So I just appreciate the fact that we're able to do this, and we have the mechanism to do it, and folks are taking advantage of it.
Yeah,
And
this really does help to infuse other funding from United Way, the foundations, and others who are meeting people at the base level where we know that there's continuing poverty, continuing needs, the senior community, others that are poor, and so forth. And yeah, it helps a lot that the board continues to support this effort. So, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski?
Hopefully a small question. I while maybe Matthew, I don't know who would, if this is for Wayman, but agree with Commissioner Morgan's sentiment that it's great that we're able to do this. My question deals with the fourth item, the emergency family shelter. I had the opportunity last night to go to the open house. I'm assuming this is the Family Promise effort at the semi-former Fulton Manor of Holland Home, correct?
I'll let Sandra answer the exact portion of it, because she was in the reviews themselves, but overall, the committee really did focus more attention on the housing homelessness issue this year, based on all the various things that have been going on in the community. So Sandra can let you know exactly what the funding will be for.
Good morning.
In response to your question, the RFP went out actually in advance of any of that happening, but now that we know what's happening with Family Promise and their intent to respond to the family homelessness crisis, they are planning to repurpose those funds to go to that new shelter that's been identified, hoping that everything goes well with that and it'll be passed in the city of Grand Rapids with their planning commission and so forth through their process. But Family Promise is anticipating using those funds to supplement the funds that they are already targeting for that shelter.
Okay. And so are there other county resources like through CDBG or Home or something else that will be going into that project? It's again, it's the Fulton Manor is for a year will be an emergency family shelter. Again, I was starting to say that I toured it last night. They had an open house for the neighborhood. It happens to be in my district, across the street, Commissioner Corndike's district, right by St. Thomas Parish.
So maybe I can just provide a broad overview real quick for everyone so they get everyone kind of on the same page here. For a number of years, the community's had a housing first policy for response to homelessness to get people into permanent housing apartments and whatnot as fast as possible so there's security and ability for the family to have some sense of safety and stability. Because the housing economy is as hot as it is and for different reasons, we've struggled with that over the past years, finding enough apartments. As a result, we've had to subsidize that with use of hotels, which are very expensive. And so as a response to some funding issues with that, the Fulton Manor project was identified as a cost savings. And because Holland Home wasn't needing it anymore, there seems to be a potential partnership there. So this funding can go towards that. We're also exploring emergency shelter grants this year through Community Action. Those had been committed to prevention initiatives for homelessness, but we're also exploring whether there's some funding that can be programmed into that, and we haven't gotten an answer to that yet. So the county is trying to be a partner with our community. Commissioner Antwer brought up the $5 million that the Bezos Foundation provided to community builders. Sandra was at a meeting with that last week to learn more about how that will be utilized. And so we're trying to bring people together to respond to this general situation that affects a lot of people that are working. These aren't homeless people that aren't not working, they're working poor. So anyway, that's kind of a broad summary. So yeah, we're working on it.
All right, thank you so much.
Hey, Commissioner Antwer?
Thank you. Matthew, you just hit on my question. I was just wondering, that $5 million that they have for community rebuilders, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to spend all that, but I'd rather see us somehow tap into that before we tap into our own funds. I don't know, that's a lot of money, $5 million. And
so it's $1.25 million per year for 4 years. So it's not all in one chunk.
I thought it was one chunk.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to be able to use that money first, I guess, if we could kind of weave
So
ourselves.
capacity is the issue, and they're going to be using it to increase capacity, as well as Family Promise is working to increase capacity in another way. And our goal we have is to bring it together as a community into response for anybody.
We'll be sitting at the table with them. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I had a quick question on the applications that you get. Are there any applications that don't make the unmet needs list?
Yes,
Yes.
there are some that
Yes.
don't make it. There was a request this year from Our Community's Children, which is a project with the City of Grand Rapids and education, and it's a project not just to indicate that it's not worthy, but the effort was made with the unmet needs to really truly meet homelessness needs, because it is a crisis in our community. The Our Children's project is more towards helping first-generation college attendees or kids who hope to go to college and to be first in their families to make college visits, to help them with preparing for interviews and essays and so on and so forth. And there are other resources in our community that can provide assistance for that. So it didn't seem to be a good fit for where there is a crucial need for housing for people.
Okay. Thank you very much. So with that, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That will bring us to item 6 from Fiscal Services. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to appropriate $5.3 million to the 2018 general fund budget for transfer to the Strategic Capital Project in the Capital Improvement Program. The Strategic Capital Project was established in 2015 to set aside funding for future capital needs and to reduce the size of debt associated with large capital projects. Any use of the strategic capital funding must be appropriated by the board for a specific project before it can be spent. For 2018, $5.3 million in funding is available due to the sale of the North Monroe property in the amount of $3.3 million and property tax revenue collection that is expected to exceed the original budget by $2 million. It is recommended that the $5.3 million be appropriated to the 2018 general fund budget for transfer to the strategic capital project in the CIP fund.
Is there a motion to approve? Thank you.
I'll support that.
All right, we have moved by Commissioner Mass, supported by Commissioner Morgan.
bet.
Thank you very much. So questions, comments, and discussion? Yes, Commissioner Morgan.
Oh, this is just a great place to park the money until we decide what we want to do with it.
Spend it well.
Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Voorhees.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a good purpose to transfer the funding now rather than when we've determined what we're going to do?
Well, the fiscal year ends in a few weeks, and so therefore we wanted to make sure that the dollars that were in the sale of the properties got placed now, as well as the $2 million that would have lapsed. We wanted to make sure that those got allocated so that they could be secured. So that's why we're moving it now instead of later.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 7 from Human Resources. Wayman?
This is a request to approve a 5-year labor agreement for the period of January 1, 2019 through December 31, 2023 between the County of Kent and the Kent County DSA representing the Sheriff's Office Corrections and Scientific Support Unit staff. The negotiating committee recommends approval of a 5-year labor agreement with the KDSA covering 242 employees. Following is a summary of the major financial elements of the proposed new agreement. Wages will increase 2.5% annually in 2019, 20, 21, and 2% in 2022 and 23. Either party may reopen the agreement during 2021 for negotiation of 2022 and 23 wages. The maximum retiree health care stipend will increase to $400 for employees who retire in 2019 or after. The total 5-year increase to salary and benefit costs is estimated at $7.3 million. This item was recommended for approval by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at its November 27th, 2018 meeting.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, we have a move from Commissioner Melton and support from Commissioner Bukowski. Questions, comments, and discussion? We'll start with Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It says the maximum retiree health care stipend will increase to $400. Is that $400 a month from the $300 or so a month that we're paying now? And is that coming out of our general fund? And does that tie into our OPEB benefits? Does that increase that?
Hello, Amy.
I have lots of questions about
Good morning. Okay. Yeah, for people who retire prior to January 1 of 2019, the maximum was previously $350 a month, so it is increasing to $400. The OPEB liability is going to be altered as a result of this, and our annual contribution and all of those things. So, yeah, there will be a cost associated with it. And yeah, there will be an impact to the general fund because, I'm sure, because we have to make contributions from the general fund to cover at least part of that liability.
And contributions to try and reduce that liability on the other end. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that's a monthly stipend.
Yep.
It's not a yearly or biannual or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
and it's
okay.
prorated for anybody with fewer than 25 years of service.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Bukowski?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my chuckle is that, yeah, LHR approved it, but we have to determine if we can afford it. So that's where my questions lie. And the question is for all four agreements, they seem pretty parallel, correct?
Yes.
And so that being said, I guess clarifying question, the wage is increasing, the 2.5 for 3 years and then 2 in year 4 and 5. That is like the cost per step because people will also move in their steps, correct?
Yep, that's true. There are, for people, usually in a mature comp system, including all of our union systems, which also have these steps, about 30% of our employees typically tend to be in the steps and the other 70 are at the top of the scale.
Okay.
So for those 30% or so who are in the steps, yes, they will get the step increase plus the cost of living on top of that.
And so the cost of this one, $7.3 million over 5 years includes projected movement within the steps?
It does not include the steps. It only looks at because we can't predict at any point in time which employees are going to be in which step with people coming and going. We only look at what we can predict when we cost those things out. So there is a cost for people to move through steps above and beyond what's indicated there. That's only looking at where people are today and
Right.
projecting a 2.5% increase. Good question.
Yeah, and I know predict with certainty isn't possible at the same time to predict within formulas of basic turnover and we know where everybody is today and that part of it. Because again, when you quick add all of these together, we're being asked to approve about, and my math was fast, $24.2 million over 5 years. So it takes the sting out of it. It's over 5 years. So that's an increase of, just shy of $5 million per year. And so, are we going to continue to see that increase? Now, of course, it's not just tax revenue, so I don't know, as we project all of this, again, over 5 years, it's great to have 5-year agreements. Yeah, I mean, how happy are we that we can afford this?
I guess
And still have cash flow. Think of the money we'd save. Anyways, I won't go there.
It's a good question. When we prepare for contract negotiations, we do it as a partnership. Wayman, Steve, and I all work together as a team. And, Steve is ultimately the one that signed off saying, yep, when I look at, what we know about our cash flows, I think this is something we can handle and still prepare a balanced budget that we recommend to the board. So I do feel confident in that. Also, that reopener after the 3rd year of the agreement gives us the ability to be flexible with wages, which is by far the largest cost associated with people. So we can control that.
All right, and then last question, did the bargaining units agree to this or just their bargaining team?
With the exception of the Fraternal Order of Police, which, we handled already in the past, which went to 312, every other union, the employees voted to ratify the agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're the last step.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Quick question for you, Wayman, that I have is, knowing how thorough our fiscal services department is, did we look at the potential of the Headley in Proposal A and having a lower, pull, lowering our 4.2803?
Sure.
Did that come into play when we looked at these?
Yeah, we looked at that, of course, that
Okay.
along with all the other variables, the increasing cost and the likelihood that we would end up not having monies from the state of Michigan, revenue sharing, all those items, we look at those in combination.
Good.
Yes.
Just confirming.
Yes.
Great. With that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That will bring us to item number 8 on the agenda from Human Resources. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to approve a 5-year labor agreement for the period of January 1, 2019 through December 31, 2023 between the County of Kent and the Teamsters Local 214, representing the public health nurses employed at the Kent County Health Department. The negotiating committee recommended approval of a 5-year labor agreement with the Teamsters Local 214 covering 51 employees. Following is a summary of the major financial elements of the proposed new agreement. Wages will increase 2.5% annually in 2019, 20, and 21, and 2% in 2022 and 23. Either party may reopen the agreement during the 2021 for negotiation of 2022 and 23 wages. The maximum retiree health care stipend will increase to $400 for employees who retire in 2019 or after. The total 5-year increase in salary and benefit costs is estimated at $1.3 million. This item was recommended for approval by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at its November 27th, 2018 committee meeting.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, we have moved from Commissioner Melton and supported by Commissioner Bukowski. Questions, comments, and discussion on this? Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. This basically mirrors the other agreement. I know with the police officers, the law prohibits them from striking, and so we always have these little steps every year. Is that similar with the nurses? Are they allowed to strike, or if?
No, yeah, that's a good question. They're not, we have 2 unions, our road patrol deputies and 911 staff. They're prohibited from striking, and also captains and lieutenants at the sheriff department. Otherwise, every other unit is subject to PA 54 penalties and.
So these, the nurses, right?
Yeah, right.
They're not allowed to go on strike?
To be honest, I guess I'd have to look and see what the rules were about them striking, but usually I look at it in terms of how they're treated with contract negotiations and certain groups in public safety because of the impact if they were to go on strike. They have a different infrastructure that surrounds their contract negotiations.
It's just, these 2 and 2.5% increases, once you start compounding it, it gets, to me, it feels totally unsustainable, as these salaries continue to go up. So I know our fiscal services does a great job based under current conditions, and I kind of share Commissioner Bukowski's concerns about, the future. Can we sustain it? And so anyhow,
And I guess I did want to say one other thing about our recommended pay increase. It is aligned with cost of living. What it basically allows people to do is just maintain the pace of the cost of living. And it also allows us to be competitive to the greatest extent possible in just a crazy labor market that we're in right now. Unemployment right now in Grand Rapids, the last read I had was in August, and it was, I think, 2.7%, which is a historical all-time low. So we have to, I guess, look at how do we create a balance between what we can afford and what we have to do in order to attract and retain people.
Yeah, just to comment further about that, this past year, there's a 4.3% increase in property tax in our revenues. So we look at those projections as well as recognizing that should, in fact, we go through a downturn, we'll have to look at again, like we did in 2008, 9, what we need to do to tighten the belt, to minimize, to make sure that we balance our budget. That's why we don't want to hedge on some of the other liabilities over the years and maintain a healthy position. so that we don't have to lay off people. Because end of the day, the employees are the most valuable asset that we have, the staff. And if we don't have staff, we don't operate. And we really are bumping up against competition to keep employed the best staff. As the market's changed, we have to do what we're doing here to make sure that we keep the best staff.
And I appreciate that. I agree with you. It's all about the employees. It's just, and I know you're working towards worst-case scenario. You're always considering that. How do we cover in case we have a downturn? My only point is these are continually, they're going to go up every single year. So, it's scary for me. I'm a
me too.
Dave Ramsey guy.
Hey, Commissioner Morgan?
Yeah, just a comment. Amy, I don't think these increases are out of line with the private sector, and I want to note that in 22 and 23, the increases actually go down. So, great job with that. I think that as we work through our budgets, we're going to have to really look at our OPEB liabilities and really try to get a handle on that. We've been trying to do that to catch up. I'm just pointing out that there's going to be some imbalance there that we may need to address. So, but to get a 5-year agreement, great job. I think it helps us with our planning to know what our labor costs are going to be, and certainly helps with the budgeting. But yeah, this is like compound interest. It goes up each year, and that's what I think Commissioner Anthony is getting to. So, yeah, we'll just we have to monitor it and see how it goes. But I don't think it's really out of line with the private sector.
Okay, anyone else?
Right, just one, nurses are not allowed to strike, so, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item 9 on the agenda, also from Human Resources. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to approve a 5-year labor agreement for the period of January 1, 2019 through December 31, 2023 between the county and the TPOAM representing Kent County employees of the 17th Judicial Circuit Court, the Probate Court, the 63rd District Court, and the County Clerk's Office Courts Division. The negotiating committee recommends approval of a 5-year labor agreement with the TPOAM covering 339 employees. Following is a summary of the major financial elements of the proposed new agreement, which includes wages that will increase 2.5% annually, 2019, 2021, and 2% in 2022 and 23. Either party may reopen the agreement during 2021 for negotiation of 2022 and 23 wages. The maximum retiree health care stipend will increase to $400 for employees who retire in 2019 or after. The total 5-year increase in salary and benefit costs is estimated at $7.6 million. This item was recommended for approval by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at its November 27, 2018 meeting.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So
Wow, we have motions for all over. I heard Commissioner Bukowski first, support by Commissioner Voorhees. Okay? Questions, comments, and discussion on this one? Yes, Commissioner Antor.
I guess it goes back to the previous two as well. We're open in 2021 to negotiate, again, reopen. Does that include the ability to go down?
Yes.
It does, okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 10, also from Human Resources. Wayman?
Yes, this is a request to approve a 5-year labor agreement for the period of January 1, 2019 through December 31, 23 between the County of Kent and the UAW Local 2600 representing employees at several county departments. The negotiating committee recommends approval of a 5-year labor agreement with the UAW Local 2600 covering 368 employees. Following is a summary of the major financial elements of the proposed new agreement. Increase 2.5% annually, 2019, 20, and 21, and 2% in 2022 and 23. Either party may reopen the agreement during the 2021 for negotiation in 2022 and 23 wages. The maximum retiree health care stipend will increase to $400 for employees who retire in 2019 or after. The total 5-year increase to salary and benefit costs is estimated at $8 million. This item was recommended for approval by the Legislative and Human Resources Committee at its November 27, 2018 meeting.
Is there a motion to approve? Thank you, Commissioner Mast. And support? Support Commissioner Voorhees. Questions, comments, and discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and the motion passes. That brings us to the back of our agenda, which is now Commissioner Miscellaneous. Is there any Commissioner Miscellaneous this morning? Yes, Commissioner Melton.
Just a note that my thoughts and prayers and hopes are with the Bush family. What a remarkable man and what a remarkable journey that he's had, or he did have here on earth. And so many years to be married to the same woman and honoring each other through all those years is pretty darn remarkable. And I guess if there's anything that we can all learn from that, I think, what was he, 85, that he did another dive out of the plane. And I tell you what, I can't even imagine the excitement and fear and all those things that might have come through. So anyway, I just am very grateful that this man was here and served his country and as our president. So,
Hey, Commissioner Brevi?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to shout out to Meals on Wheels. I know last week we approved the senior millage allocation, and Meals on Wheels was part of that. So I also had signed up my grandparents who are 95 for Meals on Wheels. They're currently living in their own home. Up until recently, they've been pretty self-sufficient. Now, after a few setbacks, they're unable to drive. So yesterday I was there when the Meals on Wheels volunteer delivered their first meal, and they were just ecstatic. You know, my grandma thought, wow, this is amazing. How much do we have to pay for this? And I told her, well, you've been paying taxes the last 20 years on this, so it's all part of the deal. But they were very pleased. The volunteer was fantastic. So I'm happy that we have such a great program available to all seniors in our county.
Commissioner Voorhees?
Yes, thank you, Chair Jones. I voted yes on every one of the resolutions today. And I'll defend my vote anytime, but it reminded me of three times in my work in the Michigan legislature, we came to that season known as lame duck, when we just had to get everything done that we wanted to get done. And I kind of felt that this morning. We appropriated or transferred about $30+ million of commitment, but necessary. But it's kind of like that. It's getting towards, as we said, the end of the year, and those things that we want to get accomplished. But it kind of had that sense. But I'm thankful as well. Sure, I would have some other ideas as we went through the budget process. But I too am thankful for the many years of this county being financially strong. But yet I want to make sure that the people's tax dollars are working, not sitting somewhere getting barely any return. Make sure we're wise in the funds, the cash assets that we have. So thank you.
Commissioner Antor?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Commissioner Melton said about President Bush. He was absolutely an incredible man, probably the most incredible president nobody knew, because so many of them don't even understand his sacrifice while in the service, the fact that he's a hero, he was shot down, he's floating out in the ocean. He didn't tell that story much, you know, and not too many people talked about it. If you stop and think about that, though, here's a guy that enlisted. He could have went, you know, his goal was to go to Texas and become a big oil tycoon, and he ended up serving the public throughout his whole life. He was really just a great man. Didn't always understand or agree with some of his policy decisions, but you cannot take away from what a great man he was. And as far as the Whitewater today, I hope it's an overwhelming success. I know I brought up some points of concern. I'll continue to have those. But I hope when it's all said and done, everybody can say, I told you so. And I really hope that happens, because I see the pictures, and if it can be half as good as what they say it's going to be, that'd be a big win for West Michigan. Thank you.
Commissioner Bukowski?
Thank you, Chair. Wanted to start with, I tried to be quiet during the last 4 items to make up for my non-quiet, but I hope you heard thanks to Amy, you and your team, because again, that's almost 1,000 of our employees are, again, we have contract, well, if we approve them in a couple weeks, we have them for 5 years, so that's excellent work, so thank you for that. At sundown began the first of our festivals of light. Those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, we don't curse the darkness, we light a candle. And so to pray this week with our Jewish brothers and sisters during the festival of Hanukkah. So remember that, especially since some of us were out praying with our Jewish brothers and sisters a month ago in light of the tragedy that occurred in Pittsburgh. However, unfortunately, my chosen faith community, the Catholic Church, has had a lot of history of not being very welcoming and inviting to the Jewish community, and so hopefully we can make up for that as we move forward. And last but not least, to the Dutch community, and especially the Dutch Catholic community, Thursday is the Feast of St. Nicholas, so buy a windmill cookie and celebrate St. Nicholas. And yeah. The origin of Santa Claus, St. Nicholas.
We have
I'm
Commissioner
going to yield
Morgan is
to
up
Commissioner
next. Okay.
Voorhees because he always has a comeback when I.
Go ahead, Commissioner Voorhees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, today is National Cookie Day. And so make sure you stop by the back room, have a windmill cookie.
Or two.
It is,
Or 2.
yeah, you can have 2 if you like. And it's all the story of Santa Claus. So thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Morgan.
Yes, again, following Commissioner Bolkowski, I just want to do a shout out to you and your staff for getting all of this done. It was a heavy lift. I mean, and to have a 5-year, to know where we're going and how much it's going to cost, and is just awesome from my book. And the part of me is, I really like to dig into the finances maybe a little too much for some of my colleagues, but I guess as I look forward, I just never want to get into a position where we're borrowing money to make payroll. I never, ever want to get close to that. So if you're trying to figure out some of my my finance DNA, that's probably the majority of it. So I'm not apologizing for a lot of my positions on the Finance Committee, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. So that's it.
Okay, Commissioner Melton.
I'm just going to piggyback quickly on Commissioner Brevi. I had a chance for the first time to really deal with Meals on Wheels. I've dealt with them in the community nurse, public health nurse arena that I have been in as a job, but I actually volunteered and went and delivered meals with Meals on Wheels in March, I believe, and it's amazing the difference that these volunteers bringing a meal make to so many of the people who it's the only contact that some of them have perhaps throughout the day, and so I'm very pleased to hear you say that, and if you have a chance, I know it's not easy, it is an incredible time well spent, 2 hours. You meet a lot of people, and they're just so grateful to see you. Not a lot of that going around these days, so it's kind of a fun thing.
Thank you. So with that, I have some closing comments. So we spent close to an hour and a half on all of these items, and these items will then go to the board. And I believe it's all the commissioners' responsibility to watch and follow what happens on both committees. I'm not on legislative, but if I don't attend, I watch it because it's televised online. I can stream it from home. So I really want to continue to encourage all the commissioners to follow what happens on both committees, because ultimately you see that at the board level, and it's really nice to have that information prior to making your decisions so that we have that base to make our decisions when we get to the board. So with that being said, we will adjourn, and our next meeting date is Tuesday, December 18th at 8:30.
I am Kent County. I am Kent County.
I am Kent County.
We are 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 Kent County.
Peya, Kent County. Ami, Kent County.
Somos, Kent County.
Mas Ira, Kent County.
We are Kent County.
We are Kent County. We are Kent County. Oh yeah.